The cadaver dog abruptly halted at the foot of the ravine, unwilling to proceed. "Storm, what is it?" Officer Klaus Kinski inquired, but the dog remained stationary. Shortly thereafter, they arrived at a clearing, and Storm's discovery left every individual stunned. A ranger's deceased body chained to a tree, the victim of murder, but that wasn't the most unsettling aspect. It was Storm's subsequent action that defied explanation. So what transpired in that forest? Please subscribe and leave a comment indicating your viewing location. Let's begin. The fluorescent lights of the county sheriff's department hummed quietly as Officer Klaus Kinski packed his gear at 5:15 a.m. The early morning silence was punctuated only by the steady breathing of Storm, his German Shepherd partner, who sat at perfect attention nearby, his dark, intelligent eyes fixed on his handler's movements. "Ready for another day, buddy?" Klaus asked, gently scratching behind Storm's ears. The dog's tail thumped against the floor once, a quiet expression of his enthusiasm. Unlike other K9s who might bark or prance, Storm had always been remarkably composed, almost dignified in his responses. At 5 years old, the German Shepherd had already earned near legendary status within the department. His ability to detect remains was remarkable, often locating them in cases where other dogs and advanced technology had been unsuccessful. 3 months prior, he had found the body of a missing hiker beneath a landslide that had significantly altered the terrain. Just 2 weeks earlier, he had followed the scent of human remains through a flash-flooded canyon, guiding recovery teams to a body that would have otherwise been lost to the sea. A strong bond formed between Klaus and Storm when they were partnered 18 months ago, yet Klaus occasionally sensed a certain enigmatic quality in his partner, levels of intelligence and awareness surpassing even the most expertly trained police dogs he'd worked with before. Klaus's phone vibrated with a message from Sheriff Dawson. "My office now, possible missing person." "Let's go, Storm," Klaus instructed gently, attaching the lead to Storm's working harness. The dog moved with a smooth, controlled grace alongside him through the station's hushed hallways. Sheriff Dawson glanced up from his desk as they entered, his face etched with concern. Forest ranger missing. Jacob Ramsey, 42, a seasoned outdoorsman, failed to report in after his patrol 3 days ago. His truck was discovered left at the Thunder Ridge trailhead. "Any leads?" Klaus inquired, taking the file folder that Dawson offered. "Nothing definite," Dawson replied. "Rangers have conducted initial searches, but the area is extensive. They required Storm," Klaus acknowledged, reviewing Ramsey's file. A respected conservationist with 15 years of experience with the Forest Service, specializing in wildlife protection. Dawson added a further detail. Ramsey had experienced conflicts with poachers in the north section and had submitted reports concerning several individuals, including Tony Tips. He was a dangerous person with a criminal record. Klaus observed Storm, who appeared calm, but seemed subtly more vigilant upon hearing about the missing ranger. A peculiar coincidence occurred when Storm was assigned to Klaus approximately 18 months prior, via a contact within the Forest Service. The transfer documentation was ambiguous, stating only that Storm's previous handler had, with some hesitation, released him to the K-9 program due to his remarkable abilities being unsuitable for a personal companion role. Forest Service headquarters experienced a period of heightened activity when Klaus arrived 30 minutes subsequently. Storm emerged from the truck, instantly using his nose to assess the mountain air. Rangers gathered around maps displayed on a folding table sheltered by a canopy, their expressions etched with concern. After 3 days of absence, they were now searching for either a fortunate survivor or a deceased individual. Officer Kinski, a tall woman dressed in a ranger uniform, stepped forward. "I'm Chief Ranger Marissa Ling. Thank you for attending," she said. Klaus responded. "What was the most recent verified sighting of Ranger Ramsey?" On Tuesday morning, while beginning a routine patrol of the Thunder Basin area, Ling responded, indicating a northeastern portion of the map. His focus was on investigating reports of illegal trapping. They located his truck at this position, although the trails diverged in 5 directions. Storm remained focused as Klaus presented Ramsey's uniform shirt for him to analyze, his nostrils widening as he registered the missing ranger's scent. Klaus was struck by Storm's immediate intensity, not only in his professional focus, but also by a deeper, almost personal determination. He seems particularly driven today, Ling noted. Dark clouds gathered against the mountain peaks as two ranger guides led Klaus and Storm to the trailhead where Ramsey's truck had been found. Recent rainstorms had turned sections of the trail to mud, potentially washing away scents and evidence. Klaus released Storm's tracking lead, instructing him to search. Find him, Storm. The German Shepherd commenced his systematic grid pattern, utilizing his sense of smell. 20 minutes elapsed during the search when Storm abruptly raised his head, analyzing the air, then turned sharply eastward, departing from the designated search area. He possessed something, Klaus called to the rangers, hurrying to keep pace as Storm pulled them deeper into a dense section of forest, down a seldom-traveled ravine where sunlight barely penetrated the canopy. The forest grew denser as they descended, centuries-old trees forming a cathedral-like canopy that muted even the birds' calls. Storm moved with increasing urgency, his methodical search pattern transforming into determined pursuit. Klaus struggled to keep pace, observing that the terrain grew steeper and more treacherous, a route no one would choose willingly. He's tracking like he's on a mission, one of the rangers commented, breathing heavily while navigating down a particularly steep section. I've worked with search dogs before but have never seen this level of focus. Klaus nodded, keeping his eyes on Storm's tail as it disappeared around a massive fallen tree. He usually works in a precise grid pattern. This was different. He seemed to know precisely his destination. The temperature decreased significantly as they went further down into the ravine, the air thick with the smell of moist soil and rotting plants. Storm stopped sometimes at intersections, sniffing the air before proceeding with resolute confidence. Suddenly, Storm's behavior altered considerably. The shepherd stopped, his hair standing on end, a quiet moan rising from his throat. Over 5 years of partnership, Klaus had never witnessed such a reaction from his typically composed partner. Storm? Klaus approached with caution, worried by this unusual behavior. The dog trembled slightly, then advanced more slowly, guiding them toward a small clearing. When they pushed through the undergrowth, Klaus saw it, a massive oak tree standing alone in the center of the space, and chained to its trunk, the unmistakable form of a human body. We've got a body, Klaus radioed, his heart sinking as he neared, locating the scene approximately half a mile east of Search Grid C. The victim, wearing Forest Service khakis, was slumped against the tree trunk, arms pulled behind and secured with chains wrapped multiple times around the tree. Multiple stab wounds marked the chest and abdomen. Blood had collected and dried in the dirt below. Death had not been swift or painless. What followed shocked those present. Despite usually exhibiting impeccable composure at death scenes, Storm deviated from established procedure. The shepherd approached the body, whimpering a sound Klaus had never heard from him before, and began gently nuzzling the ranger's limp hand. "Storm, back!" Klaus commanded, shocked by this breach of training. For the first time in their partnership, Storm disregarded a direct order. He stayed near the body, his demeanor shifting from that of a trained canine to something different, deeply saddened, appearing almost human in his distress. As the recovery team began to move the body, Klaus observed his partner with increasing worry, a thought taking shape. Storm wasn't exhibiting the behavior of a cadaver dog that had successfully found a target. He was acting as if he's discovered a companion. A technician carefully examined the victim's pockets, recovering a wallet. Jacob Ramsey of the Forest Service confirmed his identity, displaying his ID card. The photograph depicted a man in his early 40s, possessing gentle eyes, a tanned and weathered face, and a well-kept beard. When Klaus saw the photo clearly, his heart skipped a beat. A wave of recognition struck him with considerable force. "Can't be," he murmured, looking from the ID photo to Storm. Klaus then knelt beside Storm, presenting the ID card so the dog could see it. Storm responded instantly, a quiet whine escaping him. His nose softly touched the photo protected by plastic. Storm had been transferred to our K-9 unit from a contact within the Forest Service, who was no longer able to keep him despite their connection. Klaus provided the explanation, and everything clicked. The documentation stated his previous handler relinquished him because his detection skills were too remarkable to be used for personal companionship. He needed to be deployed in service. A realization spread among those present. Klaus confirmed that Ramsey was Storm's original handler, and the dog's unusual behavior now seemed understandable. He relinquished Ramsey so Storm could work with the sheriff's department. Standing alone with Storm beside Ramsey's body, Klaus whispered, "I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry." The shepherd leaned against him, seeking comfort in a way he never had before. "We'll find who did this," Klaus promised, both to Storm and to the man who had loved him enough to let him go. "I swear it." While the medical examiner made arrangements to transport Ramsey's body, Klaus allowed Storm the necessary space and time. The shepherd continued his mournful vigil, sometimes touching the ranger's hand. The experienced officers and medical staff worked silently, moved by the dog's clear sorrow. Suddenly, Storm's head jerked up, his nose working rapidly. His distressed appearance disappeared, giving way to the concentrated focus Klaus knew from their tracking assignments. The change was sudden, so thorough that those nearby observed it. "What's happening?" one of the rangers asked. "He's found something," Klaus responded, observing as Storm circled the tree where Ramsey had been chained. "He's scenting." Unexpectedly, Storm fixated on a scent trail and sped toward the northern edge of the clearing, almost wrenching the lead from Klaus's grip. "He's tracking someone," Klaus exclaimed, exerting himself to keep up as Storm raced through the underbrush. Could this be our killer's trail? They advanced further into the forest, Storm assisting them up a steep incline, through a thick area of mountain laurel, and across a small stream. Despite the difficult ground and the time passed since the murder, Storm showed no hesitation, never losing the scent. The trail led them to a small valley where a creek ran through the landscape. The dog's pace finally lessened as they neared a small clearing positioned against a rock face. Evidence of recent human presence was immediately visible. A makeshift campsite with a fire's remains, discarded food wrappers, and trampled grass indicating where someone had slept. Storm examined the campsite carefully, then paused, becoming very still and alert. He remained motionless near the fire pit's remains, observing an area where several larger stones created a rough circle around the ashes. "He has something," Klaus said softly, approaching cautiously to prevent damage to any potential evidence. Storm remained motionless, signaling that he had discovered something important. Klaus approached the fire pit and carefully inspected the area Storm had indicated. Initially, he observed nothing out of the ordinary, simply stones, ash, and dirt. However, upon closer inspection of the stone arrangement, he detected a subtle discoloration in the soil near a notably large rock. Concealed beneath it, and partially embedded in the loose earth, was a hunting knife featuring a unique carved handle. Even in the muted forest light, dark stains were visible on the blade. "He found the murder weapon," Klaus said with quiet amazement. Looking at Storm with newfound respect, through rain and days of weather, he tracked the killer's trail and led us right to the key evidence. Storm remained in his alert position, not moving a muscle even as additional officers began arriving at the scene. His composure was remarkable, particularly given the emotional weight of the search. Although he clearly had ties to Ramsey, and despite experiencing prior sorrow, he had consistently adhered to strict evidence preservation protocols. "I've never encountered anything comparable," confessed Hartman, as the forensics team meticulously excavated and processed the knife. "Typically, human suspects falter under emotional strain. Your dog transformed it into focus for the investigation." Klaus nodded, observing as the knife was carefully placed in an evidence bag. The technician's initial assessment corroborated the apparent evidence. Blood was present in the handle's grooves and on the blade, aligning with the injuries sustained by Ramsey. "We need to send this to the lab for DNA verification," the lead technician stated. "I'd wager my pension this is your murder weapon." Hartman inquired, "Any fingerprints?" "Possible partial prints on the handle," the technician responded. "If we're fortunate, whoever committed this act was inattentive." Returning to the sheriff's department, a sense of intense concentration permeated the atmosphere as forensics examined the evidence Storm had located. Klaus remained at his desk, studying Ramsey's case file, While Storm rested at his feet, the shepherd's gaze seldom leaving his handler's face. Despite still exhibiting signs of the day's occurrences, Storm had transitioned to a watchful composure, seemingly anticipating the next step in their assignment. Klaus's phone sounded, Detective Hartman calling from the lab. The print analysis came back positive. Tony Tips, with a history of poaching convictions, assault charges, and criminal trespass, is identified. He's been a person of interest for Ramsey for several months. Tips, Klaus stated, reviewing the documentation to locate the name. Ramsey had previously submitted 3 reports concerning Tips within the last year, each documenting illegal trapping within protected areas. That establishes our probable cause, Hartman affirmed. Revenge. Additionally, forensic testing confirmed the blood found on the knife is consistent with Ramsey's blood type. We possess sufficient evidence to obtain an arrest warrant. Surveillance images of Tony Tips depicted a man in his mid-30s, characterized by a shaggy beard, intense eyes, and a weathered complexion indicative of a difficult life. Security footage indicated his truck was traveling towards Thunder Basin on the morning Ramsey disappeared, and then departing that night. This timeline aligned precisely with the murder. As twilight cast the mountains in amber light, the tactical team established positions around Tips's secluded cabin. Klaus and Storm waited concealed behind a group of pine trees. 50 yards from the back door, the shepherd's body language displayed controlled tension, remaining perfectly still except for his eyes following the movements of the officers surrounding the property. The SWAT team moved with practiced efficiency, converging on the cabin from multiple angles. Sheriff's Department, search warrant, echoed across the clearing as they breached the front door. Almost immediately, a crash sounded from the rear of the cabin, followed by a shout over the radio. A suspect was fleeing out the back window, east side. Prior to the commander being able to issue new orders, a figure burst through the back door. Tony Tips, holding a backpack, and running directly toward the dense forest behind his property. Klaus made a split-second decision, unclipping Storm's lead and giving the command they trained for countless times. Storm, apprehend. The shepherd launched forward like a missile, covering the ground between them and the fleeing suspect with breathtaking speed. Tips heard the approaching dog and glanced back, his face showing terror as he saw 80 pounds of focused German shepherd closing the distance. Stop! Police! Klaus shouted, running behind Storm with his weapon drawn. Tips ignored the command, increasing his efforts to reach the tree line, but he was unable to escape. Storm closed the final distance with a powerful leap, striking Tips between the shoulder blades and sending him crashing face first into the dirt. Tony Tips, you're under arrest for the murder of Forest Ranger Jacob Ramsey, Klaus announced formally, reciting the Miranda rights as Tips was helped to his feet. I didn't kill nobody, Tips retorted, though his eyes moved around anxiously. Don't know what you're talking about. However, his demeanor shifted when he saw Storm, a brief moment of recognition followed by evident apprehension. That's Ramsey's dog, he mumbled almost to himself. What the hell? The interrogation room at the sheriff's department was intentionally plain. It featured bare walls, a metal table fixed to the floor, and uncomfortable chairs. Tips sat hunched on one side, his hands cuffed, as Detective Hartman presented the evidence against him. Klaus cautiously guided Storm to the department's dedicated K-9 area, a protected room with soft bedding, water, and recognizable toys. Stay, Storm, I will return shortly, he said, engaging the door's safety latch. During the observation, Klaus witnessed Hartman's confrontation with Tips. Hartman presented the evidence. The knife discovered at the campsite bearing Tips' fingerprints and blood matching Ramsey's type, alongside camera footage of his truck near the scene. It wasn't supposed to go like that, Tips eventually confessed, leaning forward. I just wanted to scare him, teach him a lesson about messing with my traps. While Tips recounted the altercation, describing how he'd surprised Ramsey on the trail and how the situation escalated, a disturbance arose from within the building. A K-9 unit was reported loose over the radio, having escaped from the secure area. Storm appeared around the corner, moving purposefully and disregarding the officers trying to contain him. In a departure from their usual dynamic, Storm bypassed Klaus entirely, his attention solely fixed on the interrogation room door. The shepherd slammed against the door, managing to force it open despite its solid build. Tips and Hartman looked up, startled, as 80 pounds of intense energy flooded the room. The subsequent events appeared to play out in slow motion. Storm swiftly moved across the area with alarming accuracy, overturning the table completely, his objective clear. Tips scarcely had time to lift his hands before the shepherd connected with his face, sending both of them tumbling to the floor. "Get him off! Get him off!" Tips yelled as Storm's jaws latched onto his cheek and forehead, the attack appearing targeted and deliberate. Klaus and Hartman both reacted instantly, seizing Storm and attempting to pull him away. "Storm, release! Release now!" Klaus ordered, using all the authority in his voice. For several tense seconds, Storm held on, then finally obeyed Klaus's repeated commands, loosening his grip and stepping back, his muzzle smeared with blood. "He tried to attack me." Screams echoed through the pain. "That dog, Storm, tried to attack me." Storm was immediately placed in mandatory isolation while Tips received medical treatment for his injuries. The reality of their situation was serious. Police K9s who attacked without command faced a standardized response, often euthanasia, regardless of circumstances. "Tips is getting 20 stitches, Sheriff Dawson informed Klaus grimly. "He's already threatening legal action, demanding Storm be put down immediately." "He broke the case," Klaus stated, desperation evident in his voice. "Found the body, tracked the evidence, located the murder weapon, and then attacked a handcuffed suspect in custody." Dawson concluded firmly. "The evidence collection is now potentially compromised." By 9 a.m. the following morning, the department's conference room had been converted into a makeshift hearing chamber. A long table at the front seated Chief Jenkins from County, Sheriff Dawson, and the department's legal counsel. Various officers, Forest Service personnel, and administrative staff were seated in rows to observe the proceedings. Storm was brought in by a neutral handler, adhering to department protocol for K9s under review, and secured to a fixed point at the room's side. Despite the circumstances, he remained perfectly composed, exhibiting a professional demeanor, a sharp contrast to yesterday's violence. As Klaus entered, Storm's focus instantly shifted to him, yet he held the precise stance he had been instructed to maintain. "This disciplinary hearing is now in session," Chief Jenkins declared, his voice reflecting 30 years of experience in law enforcement. "We are here to examine the incident involving K9 Officer Storm and decide on suitable measures in line with department procedures." Klaus had spent a sleepless night preparing his statement, collecting Storm service records, and contacting K9 training specialists who could potentially assist their case. He had known Storm for only 18 months of the dog's 5-year career, but during that time, they had become inseparable partners whose combined skills had resolved dozens of cases. Detective Hartman detailed the events in the interrogation room, and then the department veterinarian reported having examined Storm and finding no physical distress or illness that could account for the behavior. While other officers testified to Storm's excellent history, a department officer entered and presented Sheriff Dawson with a document. "Chief Jenkins," Dawson announced, "we've just received pertinent information. Tony Tips has provided a full confession regarding the murder of Jacob Ramsey." This morning, Dawson informed the surprised board that Tips requested to speak with detectives without his attorney. He relinquished his rights and provided a detailed confession, including evidence of premeditation. Tips stated that seeing Storm prompted his confession. Jenkins, reviewing the statement, commented that dog knew. "Somehow it knew exactly what I did to Ramsey." Following almost an hour of testimonies, which included an unexpected video statement from Storm's original trainer, the board adjourned to deliberate. 20 minutes passed before they reconvened with their decision. After examining the evidence and the circumstances, Jenkins stated, "This board has decided that although K9 Officer Storm's actions broke procedure, the unique qualities of this case require leniency. Storm will be placed on probationary status for 3 months, during which he will undergo intensive retraining. Officer Kinski will also complete advanced handler certification focused on emotional management in working K9s." Relief flooded through Klaus as the verdict was announced. Following the probationary period, Storm would be reevaluated for return to full duty. The board acknowledged both the severity of the protocol violation and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding it. Jenkins stated that the decision recognized the seriousness of the protocol violation and the unusual circumstances involved. The board also acknowledged Storm's outstanding service record and the specific situation arising from his relationship with the victim. As the crowd started to leave, Ranger Chief Ling spoke to Klaus. "Jacob would be proud," she said softly. He relinquished Storm because he was convinced the dog's capabilities could save lives and deliver justice to victims. Today confirmed his belief. "I wish I'd known him," Klaus said, observing the neutral handler readying Storm for his return. Storm embodies his training and his impact in all that he does. Link expressed sadness as Jacob transferred Storm to the K9 program. He described it as relinquishing a part of himself, yet acknowledged that certain partnerships hold such significance they must be shared for a wider benefit. As the hearing ended, Klaus detached Storm from the anchor, allowing him to stand openly beside him again. The shepherd's demeanor remained impeccable, but a nuance in his stance hinted at comprehension, possibly even contentment, with the result. "Ready to return, partner?" Klaus inquired gently. Storm raised his gaze, his knowing eyes conveying a message deeper than simple words, more than just loyalty or relief, but a profound connection forged by their shared experience. Justice had been achieved for both Jacob Ramsey and Storm. Tony Tips had confessed and would face the consequences of his actions. Klaus, meanwhile, had gained a deeper appreciation for the remarkable bond between handlers and their K9 partners, a connection that sometimes transcended human understanding, bridging not just species, but time and loss as well. Have you ever witnessed an animal demonstrate extraordinary loyalty to someone from their past? The enduring relationship between Storm and his previous handler serves as a powerful illustration of how animal bonds can persist despite separation, revealing an emotional complexity often undervalued. Do you believe your pet possesses the capacity to assess character, even if their responses appear dramatic? Considering the circumstances, would a disciplinary committee have offered Storm another opportunity following his attack on the murderer? The distinction between instinct and justice can be unclear when we examine the impressive capabilities of these highly trained K9 officers. If Storm's story resonated with you, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary K9 tales. Tap the notification bell to ensure you don't miss our new uploads. Share this video with friends and family who appreciate the remarkable bond between handlers and their K9 partners. Don't miss our other K9 tarot stories currently displaying. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, with another brand new video. During the national championship match, a police dog's persistent barking at a soccer ball was initially dismissed by security officials as an overreaction. However, one officer trusted his partner's instincts and uncovered something that stunned the entire stadium. What was concealed within that seemingly ordinary ball? Before we delve into today's story, please share in the comments where you're watching from. If you appreciate remarkable police dogs and stories similar to this one, please subscribe. Don't miss future content. The autumn sun cast long shadows across Lincoln Memorial Stadium as 60,000 fans poured through the gates, their excited chatter filling the crisp Chicago air. This wasn't just any soccer match. It was the national championship final, with Chicago's hometown heroes facing their bitter rivals from New York. Amidst this controlled chaos, Officer Isaac Tate straightened his uniform cap and surveyed the expanding crowd, his practiced eyes noticing everything. Beside him, Dash, a sleek German shepherd with attentive ears and intelligent eyes, kept a precise heel position despite the intense sensory overload of the stadium. Another sweep of the south entrance, then we'll check the locker rooms again, Isaac stated into his radio, receiving a crackled confirmation from dispatch. He looked down at Dash with a smile. "Ready to work, partner?" Officer Tate called from behind them. Isaac turned to see Chief Williams approaching, his silver-streaked hair and commanding presence eliciting respectful nods from security personnel nearby. "Everything secure so far?" Isaac responded, straightening slightly. "Dash and I have completed 3 perimeter sweeps and verified all access points. We are proceeding to the field level now for a final inspection before kickoff." Williams acknowledged, his gaze turning to Dash. "Still our department's invaluable asset, I see." The chief's faith was well-founded. Last month, Dash identified explosives in an abandoned warehouse when the department's other canines had not, resulting in the apprehension of a domestic terror cell before they could carry out their plans. As Williams left, Isaac and Dash proceeded toward the player tunnel, moving with practiced efficiency through the pre-game preparations. The VIP boxes would be filling now, and the teams would soon emerge for warm-ups. As Isaac led Dash through the stadium corridors, his mind recalled their first meeting 4 years ago at the Chicago Police Department's specialized K-9 training facility. He'd been a patrol officer then, eager but uncertain about transferring to the K-9 unit after his previous partner had retired. That day, the training sergeant presented 5 German Shepherds, all remarkable animals boasting impressive histories. However, upon Dash's entry into the room, a distinct difference was apparent. Whereas the other dogs vocalized or investigated, Dash remained seated, his amber eyes observing each handler with an apparent intelligence bordering on human. "This one's special," the sergeant remarked, his voice rough but laced with respect. Having completed his training at the top of his class in detection work, he has specific preferences regarding his handlers. He has already declined 3 officers. Isaac recalled kneeling to meet Dash at eye level, the room becoming quiet as they studied each other. "Hey there," he said softly. "Do you think we could work together?" To everyone's astonishment, Dash stood, walked directly to Isaac, and sat beside him, leaning against his leg. The selection had been made not by the department but by Dash himself. Just 6 months following certification, Dash and his team encountered their first significant case. While responding to a standard call concerning unusual behavior at a storage facility, Dash bypassed the apparent storage units and instead focused on a parked delivery van that appeared ordinary. His continued warnings resulted in the uncovering of a large fentanyl shipment concealed within hidden spaces, a quantity capable of triggering hundreds of overdoses. The case resulted in commendations for them, but more significantly, it solidified Isaac's complete faith in Dash's intuition. Repeatedly, when Dash signaled a problem, he proved accurate. Even when conventional reasoning suggested a different outcome, the initial players exited the tunnel to scattered applause from those arriving early, their cleats making a rhythmic clicking sound against the concrete before reaching the gentler turf. Following closely were the equipment managers, maneuvering carts filled with training gear, medical supplies, and the official match balls. Dash, having just completed a final inspection of the bench areas, abruptly stiffened. His demeanor transformed from relaxed professionalism to sharp alertness in a fleeting moment, a change so delicate that only Isaac would have perceived it. "What is it, boy?" Isaac murmured, observing the shift. Dash moved 2 measured steps toward the cart, his nose actively working, examining something undetectable to the average person. Isaac followed, appearing relaxed but carefully observing his colleague. The shepherd's ears were now standing straight up, his posture changing from interested to worried. "Everything okay, officer?" inquired one of the stadium security supervisors, a large man named Reeves, who liaised with the police for significant events. "Just checking something," Isaac replied, observing the equipment manager begin distributing balls for the warm-up. As the man opened the ball bag, Dash's behavior became more pronounced. His back stiffened, and his breathing pattern shifted. With practice balls laid out on the field, Dash began tracking one particular ball with unusual focus. His typically disciplined demeanor softened, revealing more insistent body language, a behavioral signal as if trying to communicate something important to Isaac. "It's likely just the scent of the new balls," Reeves offered, gesturing dismissively. "These championship balls are fresh from the factory, a special design for the final. Dogs probably detect the adhesive or something similar." Isaac nodded politely, but he sensed something was amiss. The balls may be new, but Dash had encountered soccer equipment countless times during stadium patrols. He had never exhibited any interest previously. Isaac instructed Dash and heel, deciding to watch for a little longer before alerting anyone. The shepherd obeyed, though his focus remained on the ball, now being moved between players practicing. "Officer Tate, your radio crackled. Status report?" Isaac responded, all clear on field level, although a growing concern troubled his thoughts. Was he overlooking something? When Dash whimpered quietly, a sound he seldom made during work, Isaac chose to report the incident. Supervisor Reeves observed that my K9 was displaying unusual interest in one of the game balls. I asked if I could examine it. Reeves frowned, glancing at his watch. We're 30 minutes from kickoff, Tate. The commissioner and network executives are already concerned about the schedule. He implied the seriousness of the situation. False alarms at high-profile events were career-damaging mistakes. It was likely nothing, Isaac admitted, although the statement felt incorrect the instant he spoke it. We will monitor the situation. The stadium exploded with sound as both teams ran out of the tunnel for the official commencement of the match. The referee went to the ball bag, choosing the game ball, the same one that had activated Dash's alert during warm-ups. As soon as the ball was positioned at center field, Dash's body stiffened again. His ears rose, and a quiet whine began in his throat. "Easy, boy," Isaac murmured, maintaining a hand on Dash's harness while reaching for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Tate. My K9 is still alerting to the game ball, requesting an additional K9 unit to confirm." "Tate, this is Supervisor Reeves. Negative on that request. We cannot interrupt a national championship match without concrete evidence." Isaac felt frustration growing as he observed the ball being passed among players on the field. Dash's focus remained unwavering, his head moving deliberately to follow the questionable ball, his posture becoming more insistent. "With all due respect, sir, Dash has never been mistaken," Isaac insisted. "And I've been responsible for security at the stadium for 15 years, Reeves interjected. "Unless that ball detonates or begins to release a substance, we are proceeding with the match." Isaac activated his radio to a different frequency. "Officer Aaron Vargas, this is Tate. Do you read?" A short delay passed, then Aaron's voice responded. "Copy, Tate. Could you please make your way to section 114 where I am located? I need a second opinion on something." As play continued on the field, Isaac noticed something odd. A maintenance worker in stadium uniform was exhibiting unusual attentiveness to the game, not observing the players like a fan would, but focusing intently on the ball itself. The man's gaze followed the same trajectory as Dash's, tracking the suspicious ball with unnatural focus. Officer Aaron Vargas arrived, her canine partner Rex, a Belgian Malinois, recovering well. "What have we got?" she asked quietly. "Dash has been alerting to that game ball since warm-ups," Isaac explained, pointing discreetly. "The one with the small scuff on the logo panel and that maintenance guy by the tunnel is paying way too much attention to it." Aaron studied the situation briefly. "Reeves shot you down?" she asked. "Completely," Isaac confirmed. Concerned about potentially impacting the game's flow, they continued their discussion when a forceful tackle brought down a New York player, prompting the referee to signal a free kick. The unusual ball paused briefly, and Dash's alert demeanor heightened. "Rex, check," Aaron instructed softly. The Belgian Malinois responded instantly, becoming rigid and fixating on the same ball that had drawn Dash's focus. "That's confirmation," Aaron stated, lowering her voice. Two dogs, each with distinct training histories, simultaneously alerted to the identical target. This was not a random occurrence. Isaac acknowledged this, experiencing a blend of reassurance and increasing worry. The maintenance worker touched his earpiece. A communication was being relayed to him. They observed him receive this message. Then he subtly moved nearer to the location of the ball boys. "He's anticipating something," Isaac stated. "But what's concealed within that ball?" Cleared security as expected. Officer Tate keyed his radio, contacting Captain Reynolds directly, circumventing Reeves. "Captain, this is Officer Tate. We have confirmed a K9 alert on the game ball currently in play. Request permission to implement Protocol 17. Protocol 17 was departmental code for a covert evidence seizure, a procedure developed for situations requiring evidence collection without public awareness." The captain responded immediately and clearly. The scoreboard displayed a tense 1-1 tie as halftime drew near. The suspicious maintenance worker had moved 3 times during the first half, each time bringing him nearer the officials' area where the game ball would be secured during the break. "For minutes until halftime," Isaac said, checking his watch. "We need to secure that ball before anyone can make a switch." Aaron mentioned that the head referee consistently brings the game ball to the officials' room during halftime. The room has two entrances, the main corridor and the service hallway. Rex will accompany you through the main entrance, while Dash and I will monitor the service hallway. As they completed their plan, the referee signaled the halftime whistle. The audience's noise changed as spectators went to concessions and restrooms. On the field, the referee gathered the game ball, securing it beneath his arm as both teams ran towards the tunnels. Isaac and Dash proceeded calmly through the service corridor, utilizing their credentials to enter restricted areas. They established themselves in a recess, providing a clear view of the officials' room's back entrance, Dash remaining perfectly still, even with his apparent wish to follow the ball's scent. The target was in motion. A maintenance worker was proceeding towards the service corridors, carrying a duffel bag. Aaron's voice reported in his earpiece. Within less than a minute, the maintenance worker appeared, walking with deliberate steps down the service hallway. The man's expression was calm, but Isaac observed slight indicators of tension, including slightly rapid breathing, automatic scanning of the environment, and a firm hold on the duffel bag. The worker halted at the corner, waited for a stadium employee to move out of sight, and then headed toward the official's room. Rather than going in, he stood close by, feigning inspection of an electrical panel while visibly observing the door. Within the official's room, the referee team was examining first-half occurrences on a tablet. The game ball remained on a small table, briefly overlooked as the officials discussed a disputed offside call. Captain Reynolds spoke softly into his radio. Request distraction protocol at the official's room. Need 30 seconds. Copy that, Tate. Tate responded. Distraction incoming. Within less than a minute, a security officer approached the official's room from the main corridor, knocking urgently. Gentlemen, we need an immediate clarification for the VR team. There's a technical issue with the goal review. As the officials followed the security officer toward the main VAR station, Isaac took advantage of the diversion. While Dash monitored his progress, he entered the now vacant room, swiftly found the game ball, and conducted a quick inspection. Visually, the ball appeared standard. However, when Isaac applied slight pressure to certain areas, he observed an anomaly. The ball's surface responded differently compared to typical equipment. As he ran his fingers across the seams, he discovered a nearly imperceptible alteration, a section that had been skillfully resealed. Aaron, he murmured into his radio. I possessed the ball. There was clearly something contained within. It had been altered by professionals. Acting swiftly, Isaac made a small cut along an existing seam. Looking inside, he observed what seemed to be a tightly wrapped package fastened to the inner bladder. We have contraband, he confirmed. He exchanged the suspicious ball with an identical one from team equipment stock and exited the room just before the officials returned. Within the security command post, Technical Officer Zhang examined the ball. The image displayed on the screen prompted silence among those present. The X-ray showed a complex alteration to the ball's internal design, a refined cavity situated between the synthetic leather exterior and the internal bladder. High-grade synthetic opioids were indicated by the density pattern, Zhang verified, adjusting the image to highlight specific regions. The skill of the construction is truly impressive. Observe how they've redistributed the weight to maintain proper flight characteristics. The ball would bounce, spin, and travel identically to an unmodified one. He pointed to several specific features on the screen. Note these reinforcement structures. Carbon fiber elements were included to maintain ball integrity during play, and this secondary bladder ensures proper inflation pressure despite the reduced air volume. This was not some rushed amateur job. This is a highly sophisticated undertaking, Aaron observed, examining the image with increasing worry. They would require specialized equipment, Zhang clarified. This included industrial-grade heat welding tools, precision cutting implements, and likely custom molds to maintain the spherical shape's integrity. We are discussing an operation demanding substantial resources and technical skills, he continued. And the drugs themselves? Captain Reynolds asked. Zhang explained that the synthetic opioids were in a crystalline form, specially processed to eliminate scent markers typically identified by canines. This is why standard security protocols failed to detect them. He estimated a street value of at least $3 million for this quantity, including impurities. Not just any game ball, Captain Reynolds observed, his face serious. The one certain to be broadcast on national television for 2 hours, handled exclusively by officials and players, and considered entirely beyond reproach, the ideal Trojan horse. As the second half approached, Isaac felt the familiar tension of a major operation developing. The maintenance worker is just one piece, he stated. There has to be a larger network. The coordinated takedown began with practiced precision. Plainclothes officers moved simultaneously throughout the stadium, closing in on identified suspects with minimal disruption. Most fans remained focused on the match, completely unaware of the operation unfolding around them. As a Chicago striker nearly scored again, Isaac and Dash moved toward the maintenance worker, using the enthusiastic crowd for concealment. "Marcus Elroy," Isaac stated softly, positioning himself next to the man. "Chicago PD, please place your hands where I can see them." Elroy paused briefly, his gaze flickering between Isaac and Dash as he assessed the situation. "I don't know what you're talking about," Elroy mumbled, subtly adjusting his position toward the exit. "I work here. We have already obtained both packages," Isaac responded calmly. "The operation is complete." The reference to both packages produced a noticeable reaction on Elroy's face. They had located not only the ball but also a secondary strategy. The situation hung precariously for a brief moment. Then Elroy decided, pushing a nearby food cart into Isaac's path and fleeing toward the service tunnel. Isaac reported into his radio, already in pursuit, with Dash leading the way, as a suspect fled east through the service tunnel. The service tunnels beneath the stadium formed a confusing labyrinth of corridors, with a canine in pursuit. While Elroy might know the layout, he couldn't outpace a trained police dog. Dash moved with fluid speed, turning corners with precision and driving forward with single-minded focus. "I've got the exit covered," Aaron's voice came through Isaac's earpiece. "That route is blocked." Elroy forced his way through a pair of double doors and into a spacious equipment room, toppling shelving units in an attempt to delay his pursuers. The loud noise of the falling metal and plastic made for a confusing and difficult path, yet Dash's training allowed him to overcome it. The shepherd jumped over a collapsing cabinet, avoided a suspended electrical conduit, and continued the chase with unwavering focus. Isaac kept pace, his extensive physical training enabling him to move through the chaos while maintaining visual contact with his partner. The suspect arrived at a junction of corridors, pausing briefly, which allowed Dash to shorten the distance to just a few yards. Recognizing the dog was closing in, Elroy's desperation became apparent. He seized a rolling cart and pushed it straight into Dash's path. The shepherd easily avoided the obstacle, maintaining his speed with powerful, efficient strides. "Chicago PD, stop or I'll release the dog," Isaac announced, delivering the necessary caution. Elroy looked over his shoulder, his face etched with panic as he understood he couldn't escape the chase. As the suspect seized a metal pipe from a maintenance rack and turned to strike, Isaac gave a clear instruction. "Dash, stop." The German shepherd moved swiftly, resembling a furry projectile, focusing on Elroy's arm with the accuracy developed through extensive training. His jaws secured the suspect's wrist with a measured grip, sufficient to restrain without inflicting significant harm. The pipe fell to the floor as Elroy exclaimed in surprise and discomfort, the metallic sound reverberating through the service corridor. "Police on the ground," Isaac instructed, drawing his weapon as he advanced. Dash held firm, his years of preparation clear in his controlled composure. With his unoccupied hand, Elroy retrieved an item from his pocket. Isaac grew apprehensive, but the individual produced a compact remote device instead of a weapon. "Call off your dog, or I'm activating the third package," Elroy warned, his finger positioned over a button. "You believe you've located everything? There's enough fentanyl in the third one to endanger half the VIP section if it's released." "Dash, release," Isaac ordered. The shepherd followed the instruction, retreating 2 steps while staying between Elroy and the exit. Elroy's thumb moved towards the button. In that brief moment, Isaac needed to make a vital decision: shoot Elroy and risk him activating the device as he fell, or rely on Dash's training for a more accurate response. "Dash, take." The command was hardly spoken before the shepherd surged forward with impressive speed, focusing on Elroy's wrist with exact accuracy. The German shepherd's jaws closed around the suspect's hand, applying enough pressure to force his fingers open without causing fractures. The device fell to the floor. Isaac moved in immediately, securing Elroy while kicking the remote device to a safe distance. Suspect in custody, he reported via radio. Be advised, the suspect claims a third package is located somewhere in the VIP section, potentially rigged for dispersal. With the arrival of additional officers to apprehend Elroy, it was revealed that his warning regarding a third package was a fabrication, a last-ditch effort to gain advantage during his arrest. The Security Command Center was now filled with activity as the complete nature of the operation came to light. Suspects, identified via Elroy's phone records, had been discreetly arrested across the stadium. The soccer match displayed on the monitors progressed, with Chicago holding a lead of 3-1 and 15 minutes left on the clock. Captain Reynolds briefed the assembled team leaders, noting that 6 suspects were in custody. 2 packages containing roughly 5 kilograms of synthetic opioids had been secured, with a street value estimated at just over $4 million. Chief Williams considered the information, then issued his directive. The match should continue, maintain a heightened security presence, but ensure it remains unobtrusive. Work with stadium staff to put crowd management measures in place for standard postgame departures. As Isaac returned to his post with Dash, the stadium erupted in cheers. Chicago had scored again, securing their championship victory. The celebration provided ideal cover for the final phase of the operation as remaining suspects were identified and apprehended throughout the venue. The following morning, Isaac arrived at the precinct to find Chief Williams waiting in the briefing room with Captain Reynolds and several officials he didn't recognize. Dash padded beside him, sensing the significance of the meeting in his handler's body language. Officer Tate, Williams greeted him with unusual formality. These gentlemen are from the DEA and Homeland Security. They'd like to hear about yesterday's operation directly from you. The subsequent hour was dedicated to detailing the events, beginning with Dash's first warning and culminating in the synchronized operation. The federal agents listened carefully, sometimes asking about particular aspects of the smuggling technique. The level of technical skill is what worries us the most, explained Agent Donovan from the DEA. The ball had been expertly altered with a hidden seam that would have been practically impossible to detect using routine security procedures. The internal bladder underwent redesign to accommodate the package while preserving proper inflation pressure and bounce characteristics. Information received from the suspects has already proven valuable, Captain Reynolds announced. Elroy activated his contacts upon learning about the additional charges. We are coordinating with departments in 3 states for simultaneous raids later today. Following the briefing, a press conference was held in front of headquarters. The commissioner described the operation in measured language, highlighting public safety and avoiding specifics that could hinder current inquiries. The commissioner then stated, "I'd now like to introduce Officer Isaac Tate and his canine partner, Dash, the team responsible for the initial detection that enabled this operation." A reporter from the Tribune posed the key question. "Officer Tate, we've been informed that your canine alerted to something that security screening overlooked. What prompted you to follow his indication despite supervisor's initial dismissal?" Isaac hesitated, formulating his response thoughtfully. In the 4 years together, Dash has never been incorrect when he alerts to something, not once. Our partnership functions on mutual trust. When he indicates something is amiss, I have faith in him, even when I cannot perceive the issue myself. That afternoon, as the workday concluded, Supervisor Reeves came to Isaac's desk. "Officer Tate," Reeves began, appearing uneasy, "I owe you an apology. Initially, I disregarded your report regarding Dash's alert, considering it an excessive response. Had I heeded you at first, we might have resolved the matter more quickly." In the parking lot, away from onlookers, Isaac permitted himself a brief feeling of justified pride. He knelt beside his partner, gently stroking the fur around Dash's neck and offering the sincere fondness that existed apart from their professional bond. "You were incredible yesterday," he told Dash softly. "Truly incredible. I understand you aren't concerned with press conferences or stylish uniforms. You were simply performing your duty, correct? Dash's tail moved slightly, his brown eyes locking with Isaac's, reflecting the strong connection that had defined their partnership from the start. Leaving the precinct, Isaac considered how what began as a standard security detail had evolved into a pivotal operation for them both. If successful, the smuggling attempt would have created a route for illicit narcotics to reach communities in several states. The resulting harm to people would have been devastating, all averted thanks to a single determined dog's persistent barking at a soccer ball. Have you ever observed an animal detecting something that humans didn't notice? A remarkable instance occurred during a championship soccer game when a police dog named Dash persistently barked at a game ball that appeared normal. Officer Isaac Tate, Dash's handler, was presented with a challenging decision. Should he disregard his partner's reaction as a misjudgment or rely on the instincts that had proven reliable throughout their 4 years together? What action would you have taken if you were Officer Tate? How do you find the strength to uphold your beliefs when those nearby question them? Or, for example, the persistent barking of your canine companion? We are intrigued by the unique relationship between working dogs and their handlers. Have you ever seen this remarkable connection between a working dog and their handler? Or have you experienced a comparable bond with your own pet? Many of us have accounts of animals detecting danger before humans could recognize it. From dogs alerting to health emergencies to pets behaving strangely before natural disasters, what experiences have you had with animals detecting things beyond human senses? Share your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this incredible story of Dash's remarkable detection abilities, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly releases featuring the extraordinary achievements of police canines around the world. Please share this video with friends who value the exceptional abilities of working dogs and the committed officers who work alongside them. View our past stories about canine heroes, which are currently showing, including the inspiring story of a bloodhound that located a lost child across many miles of wilderness, and the bomb detection dog who secured a hospital during a critical threat. Each canine possesses a distinctive story of bravery, intelligence, and steadfast loyalty.